1 o'clock Tuesday, time for a little sketch in nature lesson. Clearly, I'm not out in nature, but last week I was. 9 a.m. I was out at the inlet, Onondaga Lake, and I took some morning light pictures around, and I had people vote on which picture I'd take into today's lesson, and this one was my favorite, and fortunately, I got enough votes to make the cut. So basically, I'm excited about taking this into a painting. I'm not quite there yet in the planning process. So I'm going to show you where I start using the iPad to manipulate the image to get a little bit of creativity before I even start sketching or doing thumbnails. So I'll show you a trick or two I use on the iPad. And I will save this video in our virtual classroom and courses, and it'll be on our YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to Arts and Healing with Sandra on YouTube. You'll get an alert every time we post one of these videos. So let's get started. So any device you're going to use is going to have some kind of photo editing. Well, almost any device. All the ones I have anyway do. So if you have some pictures, you'll notice that you have the option to edit. So let's go into edit. So just hit wherever your device says edit. And then I go into where it has like 3 little circles on my iPad. So basically I'm looking for just an automatic color change, distortion. And I generally go into the ones that are black and white looking. Sometimes it says grayscale, or it has crazy names like Silvertone or Mono, and it's going to change up the contrast and it's going to take the color out of it. So if you're just drawing with pencil to begin with, it's going to help you break it down into a black and white and gray tones. This will help you with the value scale. So I usually start with something a little bit with a little bit more shadow, and then I'll press on this other option, and it's black and white, light and color. So I want to play around with how much light is in the picture, exaggerating the highlights, and then I'll dial it back, exaggerating the darks. You can also use black point on some devices. And what this does is it helps me kind of see things a little bit differently, more extreme, adding or deleting some of the contrast. I might go back to the color, play around with it in color just a little bit more, and still play with these lights and darks. And what tends to happen with me, I don't know if you can see it, if it reads from device to device, is I start to see an exaggerated highlight or shadow here and there, which starts to get my brain rolling, thinking about color and value. So I think I'm gonna go back to go back to the black and white, and then we'll make sure it's dialed up all the way, because that's generally how I like it. I've got this nice little pathway that has middle values, really dark values, and really light values, all in the center, which lead to the pathway to what will be the focal point, which I think this is a good way to go as far as the value study is concerned. Now what this is a screenshot of my picture. And I'll tell you in just a moment why I do a screenshot of my picture. It's very helpful. So here's a screenshot of the original picture that I took. And what I'll do is I will press the power and the home button. That's how my device does a screenshot of what's on the screen here. I'll press them at the same time. And I'll do this like maybe 3 or 4 times. That's because I like to manipulate the photo in several different ways, but it doesn't touch the original picture, which you can undo that. You can just hit reset on your editing button at any point. But usually what happens for me is I'll have like 3 or 4 pictures at the end of my camera on my device, and I can go back and forth between them as I'm doing my studies. So I have several of them here saved. Yeah, I did 3 of them. So here's the original, here's the value study that I just did. And then sometimes what I'll do is I'll take another 1 or 2 and I'll put it back into the editing, and I will do some crazy stuff with it. So I might go into like really extreme color, I might even play a little bit with the saturation of the color, like really dial it up so that I start thinking a little bit outside the box. Sometimes you can play around with the contrast and the tint, and you can make it look rather extreme, which I tend to have a lot of fun with. Let's see what else we have here. Contrast. Let's turn up the contrast just a little bit. So one of the reasons why I like to do this is now I'm seeing like purples and blues in areas where it was a little bit more muted. It starts to get my brain rolling on different outside the box color palettes that might be playing in here if I hadn't otherwise taken a look at my picture in a way that I wasn't seeing it out in nature. And what I'm trying to capture as an artist is that feeling, that intense shadow and light play. So playing with color, playing with value in a device can help you see it a little bit more in this format and match it up with how it felt here while you were standing there, because that's the goal really, is to bring that feeling of being there to the viewer when they step into your artwork. So hopefully you have a little bit of fun with your device and play around with a picture or two. You know, if you don't have any pictures you want to use, grab one offline and just play with your editing tools and see what you can do. Save it a few different ways. Post them in the comments. I'd love to see them.